Robbers texted me, said, give Ruben a couple of days before you criticise AJF. Who, me? Look, all of my friends in Portugal think he's absolutely fantastic. And by the way, did you see the way he finished in Portugal? Away at Braga, they're 2-0 down in that game and came back to win 4-2. All the indications are that it could be a really exciting time for United.
Well, I think there's been so much speculation about Ten Hag over the last more than a year about will he be there, will he not, and whatever. I think it almost come as a relief to some of the United fans that they've actually made a decision now and got someone new in. I think more importantly as well, the victory against Manchester City in the game prior to that as well for his team, was fantastic. And listen, I think he'll be welcomed by the United fans. He comes with a good reputation. He's got to prove himself now.
Let's get more on this live from sunny Portugal. talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook. Morning, Crookie.
Good morning.
So look, first day at the office effectively for Ruben Amorim. He's not going to have too much to work with though, is he?
Quickly, I think the squad will swell, and as often tends to happen when a new manager comes in, some of those injured players remarkably are available all of a sudden. Likes of Lenny Yoro, of course, one of the players that was brought in by Erik ten Hag in the summer, but we're yet to see him in competitive action yet due to injury. But I think Manchester United fans this morning are cautiously optimistic about the Ruben Amorim era for a lot of the reasons you've discussed already, really, is his record in Portugal. He has a history of overtaking a sleeping giant who hadn't won the league for a long time and obviously delivered success there. He plays a certain brand of football, and I've just been watching his first interview with Manchester United television this morning. He talks about building an identity. He talks about tapping into the history of the club. And he talks about how Cristiano Ronaldo calls him the poet because he loves to talk, in Amorim's words. He's clearly a very good communicator. And I do think that was one of Erik ten Hag's issues, not just with the way that he came across in the media at times, but I think also he struggled to get his message across to the players. So that, coupled with the lack of identity that he had, I think are two big areas where Ruben Amorim can really succeed.
His games programme isn't too bad on paper. You know, they've got Ipswich away, then Everton, then Nottingham Forest, I believe.
Yeah, and Bodo Glimt live on talkSPORT in the Europa League on Thursday will be his first game at Old Trafford, a week on Thursday, I should say. So, yeah, it's a fairly gentle introduction. It gets a bit trickier in December, Stuart. They've got to go to Arsenal. They've got a Manchester derby at City. Of course, he's just beaten City, hammered City with Sporting Lisbon, which also got United fans excited. So it's a mixed bag, but it is an opportunity to hit the ground running. He's won every game, hasn't he? He's been involved in this season, 11 wins out of 11 in the Portuguese league. They've scored bags of goals. It would be just like the modern United for him to go and lose his first game at Ipswich. But I say that partly tongue-in-cheek, and I talk about the excitement United fans have. I think it's cautious optimism because there have been so many false dawns since Sir Alex Ferguson came in. And just because you've been a success in Portugal, that doesn't necessarily guarantee success in the Premier League, does it? Because it's a juggernaut. And I would suggest that this Premier League is arguably the most competitive we've ever had in terms of those teams in the middle of the table, your Bournemouths, I was going to say your Brightons, but actually they're competing for the top four. Brentford, these are teams, Fulham, who've started really well under Marco Silva. These are teams who are capable of giving the big guns the bloody nose, and that's where I think the Premier League is different to its European counterparts.
Have you heard anything that it'll be funded in January to bring players in? And the other side of that is, have you heard anything about players leaving?
Well, I think there's a lot of deadwood, actually, and I've written a piece for the talkSPORT website. What does Amorim need to do to bring the glory days back to Manchester United? And I think it's not just about signing players. It is about trimming that squad. I think Anthony will definitely go, probably in January. You've got to say he's been an absolutely disastrous signing, the second most expensive player in United's history, but doesn't look anywhere near the level. Then you've got big decisions to make over the likes of Harry Maguire. He's got an extra year on his contract and extension if United decide to trigger it. I actually think the sensible decision there now would probably be to let him go, because again, I'm not sure that Harry Maguire, for all his qualities, is quite at the level where Manchester United need to be. In terms of players coming in, I'm not expecting there to be a lot of funds in January. We know that Ineos are trying to trim costs. They went big with Ten Hag in situ in the summer. So I think it's more about the next summer transfer window, but players are going to need to leave in order to facilitate a rebuild.
What would success be, in your opinion, Crookie?
More remarkably, they're only 4 points off third place in the Premier League. When you look at the season they've had so far, It's amazing they're that close. But again, I've already talked about how competitive the league is. I think there's just too many teams at the moment better equipped than United to finish in the top 4. So I think he should target the Europa League. They've started slowly in that competition, drew their first 3 games, obviously got the win against PAOK with Ruud van Nistelrooy in situ. They've got a very winnable run of matches in that competition. They're more than capable of finishing in the top 8. And what you haven't got this year, because of the way UEFA have rebranded their competitions, you don't get the Champions League teams dropping into the Europa League. So I think Manchester United, if Amorim can get a tune out of them, have got to be one of the favourites. And I think that's probably their best route to Champions League football next season. And it delivers an immediate trophy, potentially.
Crookie, don't forget that key phrase in Portugal, dos cerveza, por favor. That's one for you and one for me, okay? Have a great time, mate.
Will do. That's one I definitely know already.
Yeah, you'll have practiced that plenty.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.